Hello and welcome to my virtual presentation. My name is Bahsoun and I'm a first-year microbiology student at the University of Florida. My project is Patterns of Prejudice in Past Pandemics. Accompanying the spread of SARS-2 COVID-19 was a spread in anti-Asian attitudes and actions. These discriminatory actions mirrored the prejudice exhibited towards other groups in past pandemics, notably Jewish people during the bubonic plague of the 14th century. This study aimed to determine similar patterns relating to and underlying the prejudice seen in past pandemics. In particular, this study focused on discrimination against Jewish people during the bubonic plague, immigrants in America during the 1918 flu, and Asian Americans during COVID-19. These groups were chosen based on the fact that there is evidence suggesting that prejudice against these groups existed before the pandemic started. Before beginning, it is also important to mention that these pandemics feature different pathogens in vastly different time periods. So, this study focused on three major categories of potential patterns that could translate well across the different conditions of the pandemics. These patterns include hate crimes, political rhetoric, and religiosity. Using previous historical analyses as a source, it was found that hate crimes proliferated across Europe against Jewish people during the Black Plague. Similarly, the Center for Study of Hate and Extremism released statistics demonstrating a rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans in 2020, suggesting a potential relationship to the pandemic. During the 1918 flu pandemic, there was no conclusive evidence indicating that there were hate crimes against immigrants because of the pandemic. This lack of hate crimes seen during the 1918 flu could be explained by the fact that political rhetoric, pattern 2, was focused on World War I. However, during the COVID-19 pandemic, anti-Asian rhetoric proliferated among politicians on social media. A study conducted by Stop AAPI Hate reviewed thousands of tweets from Democratic and Republican politicians in the United States and found members of both parties had tweets with anti-Chinese sentiment on social media. But why? So, to determine a reason why, this study then reviewed the anti-Chinese rhetoric used by then leader of the Republican Party, Donald Trump. Using the fact-based database, every distinct event where Donald Trump used the term China virus was tallied between January 2020 and January 2021. A plot of the data demonstrated a rise in the use, followed by a sharp drop in November, coinciding with the November 2020 presidential election, suggesting that the anti-Chinese rhetoric was encouraged for political reasons. Similarly, during the plague, previous historical analyses have suggested that Christian local governments may have not only encouraged the anti-Semitic political rhetoric, but even helped orchestrate the massacres. The last pattern observed was a pattern of religiosity, or one's faith, during the pandemics to determine if there was a link between prejudice in past pandemics and religious faith. There was no pattern found. Overall, this study found that there is no general pattern of hate crimes during past pandemics without the accompanying political rhetoric, and there was no general pattern in religiosity in the past pandemics suggesting that the prejudice was not fueled by religious motivations. Once again, given the different pathogens present in each pandemic, a future study could determine a relationship between the levels of prejudice and pathogen severity. I would like to thank everybody who helped me out with this project, especially Ami Patel and Anjali Patel. Thank you for your time, and go Gators!